Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today we are going to be doing a simple day in my sketchbook kind of video. I know my last video was pretty long if you guys watched that one, and that was more focused on watercolor, so I wanted to go back to some marker art for this, and I did use some supplies that I haven't really used to draw with in a very long time, so that was a little bit fun and something a little bit different today. I didn't know what I was going to be using for drawing this day, so I actually had a whole pile of all sorts of different markers. I brought out my Tombos, my colored pencils, my Artist Loft water-based markers, my Tombow Twin Tones, the Zebra Mild Liners, which are dual-ended highlighters with a chisel tip and a bullet point, and then I also used my Stabilo Boss highlighters as well. Here I'm just showing you quickly my little swatch book. I have all of my markers and pencils, pens, all kinds of things swatched in this book, and that just helps me know what colors I want to use, what goes together, and before I start using them I can make sure that it's actually the correct color and undertone for what I'm wanting to draw. I ended up starting with a little doodle using the mild liners, and I didn't sketch for this one because when I kind of want to warm up I will often just doodle some flowers or a little landscape, and that is what I was doing here. So I didn't bother sketching, I just went straight in with the markers, and then I came back with a Micron. I believe I used the size 03, and I just made some loose line art over top of the highlighter, and I kind of like the way that this looks sometimes. It's a little bit more messy and the colors don't stay inside of the lines, but for something like this it was a nice way to warm up and kind of just scribble but still have it look nice and have a little bit of structure to it. I wanted to use a lot of bright spring colors, and since I used this dark blue for the little pond, I did have to go get another Stabilo highlighter out so I could do the sky in a slightly different color just to make sure that they didn't blend together too much. And that's where the swatch sheet really comes in handy, because I can make sure that the undertones are going to match each other and not be too different, but also that the shade of the highlighters are different enough not for it to blend together. While I was working on this quick little sketch, I was reminded of how the Stabilo highlighters, because they're kind of runny and a little bit more wet, are kind of similar to watercolors, and it's really fun to layer them, and you can change their colors by doing that. So you can see here there's a few spots that are a little bit darker, and then there's a few spots that are pretty light. So I used that inspiration and the feel of the markers for my next drawing, which is a stingray, or actually it's more of an eagle ray, but I really wanted to kind of play around with the water texture and adding a little bit of that flowiness and some swirls to it. So that's basically what this one is. I just used that blue again and then added some swirly fun details as well. I really like the color options of these Stabilo Boss highlighters, and I think the ink lasts a really long time. I've had most of mine probably for 4 to 6 years at least, or even maybe longer than that. I might have had some since 2018. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, their ink has lasted really well, and I think it doesn't dry out very fast, and the tips stay nice and strong. They don't really flake apart like some highlighters do. So I really like that about them, but I do not like how short they are. I think they're really cute that they're short, and they're easy to carry around and easy to transport just because they're kind of smaller than other highlighters, but it does make it a little bit hard to hold them sometimes, or in cases like this where I'm recording, sometimes my hand gets in the way and you can't see any of the marks that I'm making with the highlighter just because they are so short. So that is a slight downside to them. They are a lot of fun for more loose and just kind of fun sketches though, and obviously they're highlighters. They're not made to draw with, they're made for highlighting. But all of the colors and shades that they have are a lot of fun to draw with, so I do use them for drawing as well from time to time. And then again, just using microns for some lines and textures to add a little bit of detail. I alternated between a few different kinds. I have a light gray and a dark gray. The light gray is a 01, the dark gray is a 05, and then I have been using 01 and 03 in black as well throughout this drawing. I decided on a greenish blue background for this part of the sketch because I wanted it to be clearly different from the sky from the flower sketch as well as from the stingray. And then to go along with these kind of swirly flowing feeling, I ended up deciding to sketch some jellyfish. I basically just used a light pink and then some orange over top of it, and I think those two colors worked really well together. And then after I had the colors of the base the way that I hoped to have them, I used the Microns again to add black lines and some dots, and then I just added extra squiggles to make a little bit more movement and a little bit of that flowing feeling, and also just to add some fun texture. I ended up really liking the way that the pink and the orange blended together and how it looked with the black over top, so that's probably a color combination I will be using more in the future. And then from there I moved on to something pretty different, and I decided to make a little seaside oceanfront town. And again, no sketch and not really any plan for this. I just used the highlighters as the base color first, and then I came back in with the Microns to add texture and details and maybe change up a few things here and there if I wasn't happy with how the highlighter was turning out. Overall, I tried to keep it very simple and not really overthink it too much, and just kind of have fun with the colors and the shapes. Here you can see what I was talking about these being like watercolors and how they're kind of wet and blobby, which can be a lot of fun to make interesting textures using them, and also just add a little bit more interest to the drawings by adding layers of different colors and being able to kind of mix them a little bit, which I don't think is something you usually can do as easily with highlighters. So that is a lot of fun to play around with and try doing different textures that way. Again, this didn't really have a set plan, so I was just using the Microns to make little sketchy lines around all of these buildings to make different windows and doors and other shapes on them. And then while I was working on this part, I decided that I wanted it to be kind of like a trellis, so I added in some plants, and to make the texture for those, I just added kind of random squiggles. And again, just adding random details where I thought they should be as I was working on these. And a few times I thought I needed something else where there wasn't color yet, so I used the black ink to add some outlines and texture, and then I came back later with the highlighters to add color again. And that was pretty much all. I just kind of scribbled a little bit and just kind of drew whatever seemed to fit in a different area. And then I made it look like a road, and then the part at the bottom that is a mix of the orange and gray, I turned into kind of like a rocky or brick style seawall, which you'll see in just a minute, and just kind of tried to keep things pretty simple and just have fun with it and not overthink it too much. I knew I was almost done with these 2 pages, but I did want to use a little bit of my Jelly Roll highlighters because I really enjoy the textures and the colors of those. So I went back over to the jellyfish page and I used some pink and orange on the jellyfish to match the highlighter colors, mostly just pink, and then a medium blue on and around the ray, and then some darker green in the ocean to add a little bit more swirls and texture. And that is everything that I made in my sketchbook on this day. It was pretty simple and not very planned out, but I did have a lot of fun using these colors and getting to use highlighters to draw with since I don't do that very often. It's a lot of fun to try something different from time to time, so if you're an artist who isn't really sure what to draw, I would recommend trying out some different supplies than normal. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.